Welcome, Legion. Today I want to talk to you guys about what good rehabilitation looks like for an injured athlete. So if you guys ever get injured, which is very likely if you're going to be playing some kind of sport, it can happen just doing day-to-day tasks, to be fair. But if we're playing sport, our risk is a little bit higher. You could be doing your due diligence, you could be doing everything right, and it can still happen. It can just be one of those things that's a part of sport. First thing we want to look at as we're going through our rehab, we're using it as an opportunity. Now, what I mean by this is, it's obviously unfortunate that you've got injured, but it's happened. It's almost too late now, and that's fine. We use it as an opportunity to look back and see if there was anything we could have done to prevent the injury. And then now we look forward to see what we need to work on to prevent that injury from happening again or any future injuries from happening. Next thing you want to do is seek help and advice from a good physiotherapist and some help from a good strength and conditioning coach. The combination of the two is the absolute best for your rehabilitation plan. Between the two, working together, they can devise a plan, and this is really important. Like we would plan our training program if we wanted to improve speed, if we wanted to improve our vertical jump, if we wanted to improve strength, we would devise a plan. We would have a training program. It's exactly the same when we're doing a rehab process as well. We need to devise a plan. And the plan needs to it can start quite general, and then as we move along it needs to become more and more specific. General as in, how long do we expect to return to play? How long is this going to take? And this is outside of just the recovery from the injuries. How long is the rehabilitation or the reconditioning of the athlete? How long is this going to take? And that sets our timeline. From there, we obviously have our end goal. Our end goal most of the time is to return to sport, right? So we're working back from that. All right, so how do we get to this final end goal of returning to the sport? What do we need to do prior to that? What's the step prior to that? What's the step prior to that? Working our way back to where we currently are. It's important to also set goals and targets. So goals being, what are some key indicators that's going to allow us, especially when we're deciding when to return to play, that'll give us some really strong metrics to say like, yes, we are fit enough, we are fast enough, we're strong enough, we are resilient enough to return back to sport. And then we can set little targets along the way. Okay, I need to be able to complete X, Y, and Z of work before I can go back to my sport. I need to be able to complete X amount of running distance before I can move to the next step. And this is really important because it does help from a motivational point of view. There's going to be some tough times, in particular in long-term rehabs, where it feels like it's really dragging out. But if you've got these small little steps and targets in place, it can really help you stay on track and be consistent. Because realistically, the more you tick the boxes and get that work done, the closer you're going to be to that end goal. If you're starting to lose motivation and you're missing sessions here and there, you're really only holding yourself back and you're prolonging your return to sport. Now, a really good rehab program should kind of be broken up into pieces or phases, if you like to, as we kind of like to call it here. And these phases kind of entail different kind of, as we said before, goals and targets and outcomes that we want from each phase. The first one is generally the acute phase, 0 to 21 days. It depends how long the injury is, obviously, but the acute phase is this initial short period. This is where your physiotherapist can become really helpful and really start to kick off the process. The idea of this phase is promoting lots of recovery and tissue repair and healing, but it also allows us to work really hard on the other non-affected limbs. So we can do heaps of training and hard training for the areas that are not injured. In next phase, we want to move a little bit more into the specific realm, specifically trying to rehabilitate or recondition that affected area. So we can assume now that the injury isn't either as severe or the healing process is pretty much all the way there, and now we're trying to build it back up. Because as a part of an injury, there's deconditioning. the tissue, whether it's a ligament, a tendon, or a muscle, it's become a little bit weaker. It's repaired, but now it's not going to be as tolerant to the loads that it once was. So ideally, you need to bring it back up to where it was, if not even better, so it doesn't happen again. We're still working on this rest of the body though. That's still ticking over, that's keeping us going, because when we return, we don't want any weak links. We don't want to have done all this work on this one area for then another area to go. So everything must be ticking over. Next, we're going to try and integrate back into training. Now this is a really important step. If we skip it and go straight back to training, we've missed a whole chunk. And we don't know, we're kind of guessing at this stage whether you're actually going to be able to tolerate full return to play. So if you skip past it, your risk of injury is going to go up. If we prolong it too long, then we might just be wasting some time here. If we take too long to return, maybe we're not going to get that much more benefit spending more time in this area. How we can determine this is our targets, our key indicator exercises, and our goals that we've set. If we're meeting them, we must progress. Then the last thing is return to play. Again, we're using these goals and these targets. If we're using these as our guide, and we're comfortable with the physio and the strength and conditioning staff, that you have met your targets and you are going to be capable of returning to sport at a very high level with very low risk of injury, then let's do it. Let's go for it. Let's return to play. Ideally, we're trying to return to performance as well. You should come back better than when before you got injured. The way we kind of see it here is rehab is a bit of a continuum. Continuum being on one end being injured, and on the other end is performance. And essentially, we're just working through that continuum. We're building you up to this high level of performance. Hopefully that's helped, guys. Appreciate your time.